Welcome back to the Nomis Hunter, where every coin has a story, every pocket change discovery carries a spark of mystery. And today we dive into one of the most unbelievable, jaw-dropping tales ever whispered in the world of rare coins as we explore how a simple 1980p dime, a tiny piece of metal most people overlook, could be valued at an astonishing $153 million because of its errors, mistakes, anomalies, and the rare possibilities that turn an ordinary 10-cent coin into an unimaginable treasure. And as we begin this journey, I want to welcome all of you who love the thrill of discovering hidden value, the excitement of numismatic secrets, and the curiosity of uncovering how a modern coin can transform into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. So settle in as we explore every twist, turn, and possibility behind this legendary 1980p dime rumor. A coin whose value skyrockets, not because it is old or made of precious metal, but because of the miraculous combination of minting mistakes that collectors crave. Mistakes so rare, they push the limits of what is believable in the world of coin collecting. And when we talk about errors on a coin like the 1980p dime, we're talking about a complex combination of minting stages where machinery, pressure, alignment, planchets, dies, and timing must all malfunction in extraordinary and unpredictable ways, creating varieties so unique that they become one-of-a-kind numismatic marvels. And in this story, everything begins with the Philadelphia Mint, where billions of dimes were produced during the 1980s using high-speed presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, a process efficient enough to supply the nation, but chaotic enough that errors occasionally slipped through unnoticed. And among these possibilities, the most talked about is the dream scenario of a double-struck, off-center, transitional planchet hybrid error combined with a die clash, die cap, and misaligned strike all at once. The kind of fantastically improbable combination that creates a coin so visually stunning and structurally bizarre that collectors consider it a once-in-human-history event, because when minting mistakes pile on top of each other in layers, each layer multiplies the rarity, and when rarity escalates beyond measurable probability, that is exactly where fantasy values like $153 million come into the conversation, driven not by reality, but by mythology, speculation, and the human fascination with impossibly rare objects. So imagine this: a 1980p dime struck on the wrong planchet, possibly a leftover silver planchet from a previous era, or even a foreign coin planchet that mistakenly slipped into the machine, giving the coin a different weight, different ring, and different metallic sheen, instantly making it a standout rarity. And now, add the possibility of an off-center strike where the design is pushed so far from its normal alignment that part of the blank surface is exposed while the other side captures only a fragment of Roosevelt's portrait or the torch, branch, and flame on the reverse, creating an asymmetrical beauty collectors love. Then imagine the die clashing, where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of backwards design elements stamped into the metal, producing a haunting visual signature that makes any coin dramatically unique. And now picture a double strike error where after the first strike, the coin shifts slightly and receives a second strike at a different angle, doubling letters, stretching features, and twisting the entire design into a layered image that resembles motion captured in frozen metal. And if that weren't enough, imagine a die cap error where a struck coin sticks to one of the dies and begins to act like a soft metal stamping cap, creating increasingly distorted strikes as it remains stuck, causing the next coins to show unusual bubbling, warping, or ghost impressions, making each piece a strange work of accidental art. And now envision a misaligned die on top of all of these errors, where the upper die is not properly centered over the lower die, causing one side of the coin to carry a visible shift in the strike that skews the design off to one direction, while the other side remains relatively normal. giving it a dual personality appearance that baffles even experienced collectors. And finally, consider the possibility of a broad strike error, where the collar, the metal ring that shapes the coin's rim, fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread and expand during the strike, producing a wider and flatter coin with unusual edges. And when you stack all these layers of minting malfunctions together, you end up imagining a coin so impossible, so astronomically unlikely, that its existence becomes a legend in itself, creating the myth of a 1980p dime worth more than $153 million. Not because such a coin has ever been documented, but because the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters fuels the possibility that maybe, somewhere, one such unbelievable error escaped into the world, sitting unnoticed in someone's drawer, jar, or forgotten collection, waiting for the right person to recognize it. And that idea alone creates excitement, curiosity, and obsession in the coin community, pushing people to inspect their dimes more closely than ever before, searching for even the slightest hint of something extraordinary. Because the truth is that error coins do carry significant value, and in rare combinations they can reach 5 figures or 6 figures. But a number like $153 million belongs to the realm of sensational imagination, fueled by viral stories, exaggerated headlines, and the thrill of believing that a tiny coin could change someone's life forever. And while the realistic values remain grounded in known market trends, the fantasy value sparks enthusiasm, which is why collectors love hearing about these wild possibilities, because somewhere deep down, everyone likes to believe that luck can strike through something as ordinary as pocket change, transforming a tiny dime into a fortune. And this possibility fuels the hunt, inspiring new collectors to check their coins, seasoned experts to revisit their knowledge, and storytellers to explore the thrilling hypothetical scenarios that make numismatics feel like treasure hunting. And in the case of the 1980p dime, even though billions were minted, only those with genuine errors hold value, ranging from slight misstrikes to dramatic off-center or wrong planchet errors. And while none have reached astronomical prices, the idea of that impossible mega-error coin lingers in the imagination of many. And that is what keeps the legend alive, pushing people to keep searching, keep dreaming, and keep believing that maybe, just maybe, the next extraordinary discovery is only one coin away. And as you hold a dime in your hand, you might start wondering whether it carries a hidden flaw, a unique imperfection, or a rare anomaly capable of surprising the world. And that feeling, that spark of hope, is what makes the thrill of coin collecting so powerful. Because even though the number $153 million may be symbolic, the chase for rare errors is very real, and the excitement is genuine, motivating collectors to inspect the mint mark, the rim, the strike, the alignment, the weight, the color, and every microscopic detail on their coins, because the world of numismatics teaches us that rarity can appear anywhere, even in the places we least expect. And that is exactly why stories like the legendary 1980p dime continue to fascinate the community, keeping the spirit of discovery alive, encouraging curiosity, and reminding everyone that treasures are not always buried deep underground, but can sometimes be hiding in plain sight in the everyday coins we carry. And with that thought, I welcome all viewers to continue exploring the fascinating universe of rare coins with the Numis Hunter, where every tiny detail matters, every error tells a story, and every episode fuels the excitement of the hunt for the next unbelievable discovery. Next, 1976 dime, a coin millions of people handled without a second thought, has become the center of a legendary claim that it could be worth $15 million because of extraordinary minting errors, rare production mistakes, and unimaginable possibilities that fuel both curiosity and excitement among collectors. And as we begin this journey, I want to welcome you to a world where the smallest metal discs can hide the biggest surprises. A world where a coin worth 10 cents transforms into a priceless treasure because of rare anomalies that even the most advanced machinery cannot prevent. And for the 1976 dime, a coin produced during a historic period marked by America's bicentennial celebrations, the idea of a $15 million error coin fascinates collectors because of the combination of myth, potential rare minting flaws, and the thrill of discovering something the world has never seen before. And the story always begins with an understanding of how incredibly rare mint errors must be to generate such astronomical value. Because during the mid-1970s, the U.S. Mint was producing a massive number of coins at extremely high speed, using powerful presses that struck hundreds of coins per minute. And whenever production increases, the chance of mistakes, even tiny ones, rises slightly, although still remaining very rare. And yet within these rare windows of mechanical unpredictability, unusual errors sometimes escape into circulation, creating coins that collectors spend decades trying to locate. And the 1976 dime opens the door to a number of thrilling possibilities, each one capable of generating huge value, each one capturing the imagination of anyone fascinated by numismatic mysteries. So imagine a scenario where a 1976 dime was accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a leftover silver planchet from pre-1965 production, or even a foreign coin planchet of different size, weight, and metal composition, which would immediately transform a normal coin into a valuable rarity, because wrong planchet errors are among the most sought after in coin collecting. And when they occur on a coin connected to a historic year like 1976, their desirability only multiplies. And then expand this possibility by imagining that instead of being struck perfectly centered, this 1976 dime received an off-center strike so dramatic that a large portion of the blank planchet remained untouched, while the rest displays a partial portrait of Roosevelt and a fragmented torch, olive branch, and oak leaves, creating an appealing asymmetry that collectors love, especially when combined with other errors. And now imagine the dies themselves malfunctioning, perhaps clashing together without a coin between them, creating eerie, ghost-like impressions that transfer onto the next coin struck, giving the dime a double image effect of backwards details embedded into the metal, which collectors refer to as die clash errors. And these errors can be extremely valuable, especially when deep, clear, and combined with another major flaw. And then imagine the 1976 dime being struck twice or even 3 times, where upon the first strike the coin shifted slightly, and then receive another strike at a different angle, causing letters, numbers, and design features to stretch, distort, or multiply across the surface, creating a double-struck or multi-struck effect that looks chaotic, dramatic, and visually stunning. And such errors are always highly desirable because each one is completely unique. And in the rarest cases, such mistakes become the centerpiece of legendary value discussions. Then take the scenario a step further and imagine a die cap error, where a struck coin becomes stuck to the die and begins to act like a soft metal cap that stamps onto the next planchets, producing strange, mushroom-shaped distortions that collectors find mesmerizing because of their rarity and the way they visually transform the coin into an unintentional piece of metal art. And imagine that this die cap effect continued for multiple strikes before being noticed, leaving the 1976 dime with a warped, domed appearance on one side and unusually soft or blurred details on the other, making it the kind of error piece that could become legendary in collector circles. And on top of all these possibilities, imagine the minting collar failing to engage, allowing the metal to spread outward during the strike and creating a broad strike error, which leaves the coin wider and flatter than normal. lacking the reeded edges that dimes usually have, and broad strike errors, especially when combined with a wrong planchet, double strike, or off-center strike, can become extremely valuable because they create dramatic, unmistakable visual effects. And then consider the possibility of a major misalignment error where the upper die and the lower die fail to align properly, causing one side of the coin to appear shifted far from its normal position while the other side remains centered or only slightly off, giving the coin the strange and intriguing appearance of a dual-world design that confuses the eye and excites the imagination. And add to this the possibility of a rotated die error, where one side of the coin is twisted at an angle relative to the other, creating a rotational mismatch that collectors always find intriguing because it shows an undeniable mechanical malfunction during minting. And now imagine that all of these possibilities could stack together in the realm of imagination, creating a once-in-a-lifetime super error on a 1976 dime, a coin so rare, so visually shocking, so mechanically impossible that its mere existence would be considered a miracle of minting chaos. And in numismatics, when a coin reaches the level of being one of one, meaning no other identical error coin exists, its value becomes subjective and can, in theory, reach astronomical heights depending on collector demand, historical significance, and rarity. And that is where the myth of the $15 million 1976 dime originates. Because people love to imagine the rarest possible error combinations, even though such a coin has never been documented. And yet the possibility, unlikely as it may be, fuels the passion of thousands of collectors who inspect their change daily in hopes of finding something extraordinary. Because the real power of these stories lies not in confirmed market prices, but in the human desire to believe that a simple coin could change a person's life. And while real 1976 dime errors can reach hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on severity, the $15 million claim lives mostly in the realm of imagination, hype, and the thrill of thinking about the ultimate impossible error that could theoretically exist but has never been seen. And this fascination keeps the story alive, keeps collectors motivated, and keeps the hunting spirit energized as people study. They're coins looking for off-center strikes, weak strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, missing clad layers, or transitional metal errors that could make their coins worth far more than face value, because error coins, especially major ones, do carry significant real-world value, and the 1976 dime remains a popular target for error hunters because of its bicentennial era and the large number of coins produced, creating a slightly larger window of opportunity for mistakes, although still extremely rare. And this leads to one of the most exciting aspects of numismatics: the idea that a treasure could be hiding in plain sight, sitting right inside a coin jar, a storage box, or someone's forgotten pocket change, waiting for an observant person to notice something unusual. And that's why the thought of a $15 million 1976 dime sparks so much excitement. Not because such a coin has been authenticated, but because the imagination and passion of the collecting world create an atmosphere where even the impossible feels worth searching for. And these stories inspire new collectors to join the hunt, encourage experienced collectors to re-examine their collections, and fuel the shared belief that coins, even modern ones, can hold enormous secrets. And that is why every tiny detail matters. Every scratch, every rim anomaly, every metallic difference, every strike imperfection. Because any one of these could be the key to unlocking unbelievable value. Next, 1981 D-Dime. A coin millions of people handle without even glancing at its surface, has become a center of bold claims suggesting it could be worth an unbelievable $27 million because of extraordinary minting errors, rare mechanical mistakes, and the astonishing possibilities that coin collectors love to imagine. And as we begin this deep dive, I want to welcome everyone who loves the thrill of treasure hunting in their own pockets. Everyone who gets excited by the chance that something ordinary could secretly be extraordinary, and everyone who believes that even a tiny dime might hold a life-changing surprise hidden within its design. Because the story of the 1981 D dime is not just about value, but about the incredible world of mint errors, the unexpected combinations of flaws that sometimes slip past the watchful eyes of mint inspectors, and the way those errors can transform a 10-cent piece into a rare collectible with jaw-dropping value. And fascination begins with understanding the environment in which the 1981 D dime was created at the Denver Mint, a facility known for its high-speed production, efficiency, and massive output, where machines strike hundreds of coins per minute, and with billions of coins being pumped out rapidly, even the slightest mechanical hiccup can produce unusual anomalies, and those anomalies, when extreme enough, can become the stuff of numismatic legends. So imagine the first possibility, a 1981 D dime, struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a leftover silver planchet mistakenly fed into the modern system, or even a foreign planchet intended for a completely different country's coin, creating a mismatched metal composition that gives the coin a different weight, ring, color, and thickness, instantly making it a numismatic rarity sought after by collectors. And then imagine adding to that chaos an extreme off-center strike, where the design lands dramatically shifted to one side, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed, and only a partial image of Roosevelt or the torch and branches visible, creating a mesmerizing asymmetrical appearance that stands out immediately when spotted. And this type of off-center error becomes even more incredible if it is combined with a second strike, because double-struck and triple-struck coins are some of the most visually extraordinary pieces in numismatics. And when a 1981 D dime shifts between strikes, it creates warped, stretched, overlapping, or ghost-like impressions that collectors absolutely love, because no two such coins look the same. And if the double strike occurs on a wrong planchet, the rarity climbs even higher. And now imagine die clash errors, one of the most thrilling minting mistakes, where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring reverse design elements into each die and leaving behind faint or even deeply embedded ghost images that appear in unexpected places on the coin, such as reverse details showing through behind Roosevelt's portrait or parts of Roosevelt's image appearing behind the torch, branch, and flame. And these eerie shadows give the coin a mysterious quality that collectors find unforgettable. And now imagine the misaligned die error, where the upper die is slightly rotated, shifted, or angled incorrectly over the lower die, causing the top design to strike off-center while the bottom design remains aligned or only partially misaligned, creating a two-world effect that is immediately noticeable and highly prized because it is concrete evidence of mechanical malfunction at the mint. And then take this a step further and imagine a broadstrike error occurring simultaneously, where the collar that normally shapes the coin's rim fails to hold the planchet in place, allowing the metal to expand outward during the strike, producing a larger, flatter dime with smooth edges instead of the standard reeded edge. And when a broad strike happens in combination with a double strike or off-center strike, the results become visually dramatic, giving the coin a misshapen, stretched, or expanded appearance that attracts high-level collectors. And now imagine a die cap error, which is one of the strangest and most spectacular error types, occurring when a newly struck coin accidentally sticks to one of the dies and begins acting like a soft metal cap, repeatedly striking subsequent planchets while slowly deforming into a bowl-like shape, and coins involved in this error receive heavily distorted, deep, or collapsed impressions that are unmistakable. And if a 1981 D dime were part of such a sequence, collectors would treat it as a masterpiece of minting chaos, and then consider the possibility of a clipped planchet error, where part of the metal blank is missing due to a cutting misalignment, creating a crescent-shaped bite mark along the edge. And when this type of clip planchet error appears on a coin, already carrying a major strike anomaly, its value increases significantly because it means multiple errors occurred before the coin was even struck. And then imagine that all these possibilities, wrong planchet, multiple strikes, off-center strike, broad strike, misaligned die cap, die clash, rotated die, clip planchet, stacked together in the rarest, most unpredictable sequence imaginable, resulting in a one-of-a-kind minting mishap that would be so unique, so visually dramatic, and so mechanically impossible that collectors would treat it as the holy grail of modern dime errors. And that is where the idea of a $27 million 1981 D dime comes from. Not because such a coin has ever actually been found or authenticated, but because collectors love imagining the ultimate error coin, the one mistake that should never happen but might exist somewhere hidden away in a jar or drawer, or an old collection waiting to be discovered, and the excitement this possibility creates is enough to fuel endless discussions, videos, searches, and dreams in the numismatic community. Because even though real error dimes from 1981D can be worth anywhere from a few dollars to thousands depending on the severity of the mistakes, the fantasy of that perfect storm error inspires people to check their coins carefully, looking for missing clad layers, wrong metal compositions, dramatic off-center strikes, extreme doubling, die cracks, rim anomalies, rotated devices, or any other sign of rarity. And that search is what makes the world of coin collecting so thrilling, because with every dime someone picks up, there is always a chance, however small, that a hidden treasure might reveal itself. And that possibility keeps collectors passionate, keeps the hunt alive, and keeps stories like the $27 million 1981D dime circulating with interest and excitement, reminding everyone that even the smallest coin can contain enormous secrets, enormous value, and enormous fascination. And that is why we continue exploring, studying, and hunting for the next great discovery here on the Numis Hunter, where every coin matters and every moment of curiosity has the potential to uncover something extraordinary. Next, 1974 dime that some claim could be worth an unbelievable $39 million because of its supposed errors, minting mistakes, and extreme possibilities that spark excitement, disbelief, and endless fascination among coin collectors. And before we dive into the incredible world of minting chaos, I want to welcome all viewers who love the thrill of discovering something valuable where no one else thought to look, those who enjoy the adrenaline rush of flipping a coin over and noticing something unexpected, and everyone who believes that hidden history can be found in the smallest places, because the 1974 dime story reflects the perfect combination of imagination, rare mechanical mishaps, and the never-ending hunt for a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic miracle. So let's step right into the world of mint errors and explore in depth what kinds of mistakes, flaws, and anomalies could even spark the idea that a 1974 dime might reach a value as surreal and astronomical as $39 million. And it all begins at the United States Mint during the early 1970s, a time when billions of coins were produced every year using high-speed presses, automated feeding systems, and steel dies striking thousands of planchets per hour. And with such intense production, the possibility of errors increases ever so slightly, though still remaining extremely rare, and these errors, especially the dramatic ones, can turn an ordinary coin into a valuable collectible because they provide undeniable evidence of mechanical failure, misalignment, or unexpected combinations of minting steps, and the 1974 dime, though common in normal condition, becomes incredibly fascinating when we imagine the legendary possibilities of what kinds of extreme errors might have occurred to transform it into a mythical multi-million-dollar treasure. So first imagine the wrong planchet error, one of the most desirable mistakes in all of numismatics, where a 1974 dime might have been, struck on a leftover silver planchet, a copper penny planchet, a foreign coin planchet, or even an experimental blank used for testing machines. And if this were to happen, the coin would immediately show unusual features such as incorrect weight, different coloration, or a metallic ring that distinguishes it from a standard clad dime. And wrong planchet errors carry immense value, especially when they occur in years not associated with metal transitions, which makes a hypothetical 1974 wrong. Planchet dime, one of the most exciting possibilities. And now imagine combining that with an off-center strike, where the design lands dramatically shifted to one side, leaving a large blank crescent of metal untouched, while Roosevelt's portrait or the reverse torch appears only partially, creating a visually stunning error that collectors love because it highlights the moment the planchet was fed incorrectly into the press. And the more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date is still visible. And now picture the coin receiving not one but two strikes, or even three, as the planchet shifts between impacts, creating overlapping images of Roosevelt, doubled lettering, doubled numbers, stretched shapes, and bizarre layered impressions that make the coin look almost surreal. And multi-strike errors are among the most dramatic minting mistakes because they create truly one-of-a-kind coins, no two ever identical. And now imagine a die clash error added to the mix, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, imprinting reverse design elements into each die and transferring ghost-like shapes onto future coins, which means a 1974 dime might show faint outlines of the torch or branches behind Roosevelt's head, or faint parts of Roosevelt's silhouette behind the torch on the reverse, creating a haunting double-world appearance collectors find irresistible. And then imagine a misaligned die error, where the upper and lower dies do not line up perfectly, causing one side of the coin to be shifted dramatically while the other remains normal or only slightly off. And misaligned die errors create an instantly noticeable warp in the design that can significantly increase the coin's value when combined with other mistakes. And then add the possibility of a rotated die, where the obverse and reverse designs are not aligned in the standard orientation, but twisted to an unusual angle, creating a strange mismatch visible when the coin is flipped from front to back. And rotated die errors are rare and collectible on their own, but when combined with off-center strikes and wrong planchets, their value multiplies dramatically. And now consider a broad strike error, which happens when the collar that normally shapes the rim fails to engage, causing the coin to spread outward during the strike, producing a wider, flatter dime with smooth edges instead of the usual reading. And when a broad strike occurs together with misalignment or double strikes, the result is a coin that looks shockingly warped, almost melted, and highly desirable. And now imagine the spectacular die cap error, where after the first strike, the coin sticks to the upper die and becomes a soft metal stamping cap that repeatedly presses into other planchets, deforming more with each strike and creating dramatic bowl-shaped or mushroom-like distortions. And if a 1974 dime were part of such a sequence, the coin would carry wildly unusual depth, curvature, or collapse designs, making it a centerpiece in any error collection. And then imagine a clipped planchet error, where a portion of the blank metal is cut incorrectly during preparation, leaving a noticeable curved, bite-shaped mark on the coin's rim. And if a clipped planchet also carried a double strike, off-center strike, or die clash, it would multiply the rarity further. And now move into the realm of extremely extreme minting chaos by imagining a missing clad layer error, where the outer nickel coating fails to bond correctly, leaving the dime with exposed copper on one or both sides, giving it a strange red or brown color that immediately stands out and can be very valuable, especially in combination with other errors. And now imagine stacking several of these errors together. Wrong planchet, off-center strike, double strike, die clash, broad strike, rotated die, clipped planchet, missing clad layer, into one unimaginable coin. A coin so chaotic in appearance, so mechanically impossible, so unlike anything ever recorded that collectors would consider it the holy grail of modern dime errors. And while such a combination is nearly impossible, the mere idea of it fuels the legend of the $39 million 1974 dime. Not because such a coin has ever been confirmed or sold, but because the imagination of collectors loves to explore hypothetical perfection in minting mistakes. And these stories inspire people too. Check their change more carefully to look closer at every rim, date, mint mark, and strike detail, searching for something unusual, something extraordinary, something that might have escaped unnoticed for decades. And even though real 1974 dime errors exist and can be worth anywhere from a few dollars to thousands, depending on the rarity and severity of the mistakes, the myth of the impossible $39 million dime continues to captivate collectors because it represents the ultimate dream, the belief that a small forgotten coin could change a person's life, and that possibility fuels the passion of numismatics, encouraging everyone to stay curious, keep searching, and never underestimate the power of a tiny piece of metal that traveled through history unnoticed. And that is why stories like the legendary 1974 dime remain so exciting, reminding us that treasures might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a curious mind to discover them. And with that spirit, I welcome all viewers to continue the adventure with the Numis Hunter, where every coin holds a secret, every detail matters, and every search brings us one step closer to finding the next unbelievable discovery in the thrilling world of rare coins. Next, 2001 P dime that some say has been valued as high as $6 million due to a combination of bizarre minting errors, shocking production mistakes, and nearly impossible circumstances that make this small silver-colored coin one of the most sought-after pieces in modern American numismatics. And as we unfold this story, you're about to see why a coin minted in the billions could still hide a few elusive specimens that break every rule of what a dime should be, defying expectations and pushing collectors into bidding wars that reach unimaginable levels. And as always, welcome to the Numis Hunter, where we chase the rare, the hidden, the mysterious, and the truly extraordinary pieces of history that could be sitting quietly in your drawers, pockets, piggy banks, or coin jars without you even realizing it. So sit back as we unravel how a simple 2001 P dime from the Philadelphia Mint turned into a multi-million-dollar marvel fueled by rumors, confirmed errors, unlikely survival stories, and the kind of minting anomalies that make experts scratch their heads and collectors open their wallets as wide as the Grand Canyon. Because when a coin contains the perfect storm of rarity, uniqueness, and mystery, its value skyrockets beyond logic. And the 2001 P dime is a perfect example of how mistakes can create masterpieces. Now, to understand why this particular dime could command such an astronomical price, you first need to picture the year 2001 at the United States Mint, a year filled with massive production numbers, huge pressure to keep up with circulation demand, and machinery running nonstop. And with such heavy output comes increased chances of errors slipping through. Because even the most advanced minting equipment is not immune to misalignment, double striking, planchet contamination, die cracks, and mechanical breakdowns. And here is where the legend begins. Because in early 2000s, several collectors and coin roll hunters started reporting unusual 2001 P dimes, showing errors no one expected to see together on a single coin. And these weren't your average off-center strikes or weak strikes. These were extreme anomalies like double dies, so strong the inscriptions appear to have ghostly shadows. Dramatic die clashes where the outlines of Roosevelt's portrait seemed to merge with the torch, and branches of the reverse design, and even broadstrike errors where the coin lacked its rim entirely and spread out irregularly, giving the dime a swollen appearance that shouldn't exist if normal quality control procedures had caught it. But this is only the beginning, because the most mind-blowing error reported on a handful of these 2001 P dimes is the rare and almost impossible transitional planchet mistake, meaning some of these dimes were struck on metal blanks that didn't belong to the dime at all, with rumors of 2001 P dimes struck on copper-nickel quarters, pure copper penny planchets, or even unidentified alloy mixtures likely left over from previous experimental runs at the mint. And this is where collectors lose their breath, because a transitional planchet error alone can skyrocket values into 6 or 7 figures depending on weight, composition, and rarity. Now combine a transitional planchet error with additional errors like double striking, off-center alignment, or heavy die deterioration, and what you get is a type of coin that technically shouldn't exist, a coin so unusual the mint would normally melt it instantly upon detection, meaning only a microscopic fraction of these error dimes could have ever escaped into circulation, making those that survived not just rare, but practically miraculous. And with rarity comes value, especially when multiple errors stack together on a single specimen. Some collectors claim that at least one 2001 P dime exists with a dramatic multi-strike error, where the coin appears hit 2 or 3 times in different angles, creating a chaotic, overlapping profile of Roosevelt's face and the reverse designs, almost like the dime was caught between dies during a malfunction. And such dramatic errors, when authenticated, can fetch enormous sums because they visually represent a mechanical disaster frozen in metal, making them treasured by advanced collectors who crave pieces with strong visual appeal. But there's also speculation that a few of these 2001 P dimes were part of test strikes, coins used internally to calibrate machinery or test new alloy mixtures before switching fully to circulation metal. And these internal test coins are not supposed to leave the mint under any circumstances. Yet history shows us countless examples where mint employees accidentally or sometimes deliberately let test pieces slip into circulation bags. And when such coins are discovered years later, they become numismatic legends, valued not only for rarity, but also for the mysterious origin story that surrounds them. Each time a questionable 2001 P dime surfaced with weight anomalies or strange coloration hinting at alloy inconsistencies, collectors grew increasingly convinced that at least one ultra-rare test strike error exists. And with such rumors swirling around online forums, auction houses, and coin clubs, the demand grew even more intense. Secretive private sales, sometimes whispered about in collector circles, fueled the claim that a verified specimen had allegedly been sold for as high as $6 million due to its combination of transitional planchet, double strike, and dramatic die clash errors all wrapped into one unbelievable coin. And while official documentation of such a sale is locked behind privacy agreements, the very possibility is enough to ignite a frenzy. Beyond the errors themselves, what also makes the 2001 P dime so interesting is how easily it can blend into everyday circulation. Since millions of ordinary 2001 P dimes exist and look perfectly normal at first glance, meaning the rare error versions can hide in plain sight, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector or a lucky beginner to discover them. And that mystery alone adds to their allure, making every coin roll hunt, every pocket search, every drawer rummage feel like a treasure hunt where $6 million could be sitting quietly between ordinary coins. The emotional thrill attached to such discoveries amplifies their value, because collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying the dream, the legend, the possibility that mistakes from a minting machine could turn into history-making artifacts. And then there's the survival factor, because even if a dramatic error coin were minted, the chances of it avoiding detection, escaping through bagging machinery, being shipped out to banks, distributed into circulation, spent by unsuspecting individuals, and then surviving decades of use without being damaged beyond recognition are extremely slim, making surviving specimens exceedingly precious. A single scratch, dent, bend, or abrasion can reduce the value dramatically. So finding one in high grade, preserved naturally without intentional hoarding, pushes its worth even higher, especially when accompanied by a certification from a top grading service verifying the authenticity of its multiple errors. With all these elements combined, transitional planchet, multiple striking anomalies, dramatic die clashes, die cracks resembling lightning bolts across Roosevelt's face, off-center misalignment, broadstrike spreading, and alloy test speculation. You get a perfect storm of collector obsession, and whenever a coin becomes the center of passionate speculation, its monetary worth increases. Because rarity is only part of the equation, demand and emotion complete the picture. This is why the legend of the $6 million 2001 P dime continues to grow, inspiring collectors worldwide to check their pocket change and revisit their old coin jars, as the thought of such a valuable error dime hiding among ordinary coins motivates a new generation of treasure hunters. And that is the magic of the numismatic world, where even a tiny dime, often overlooked and undervalued, can transform into an object of immense wonder, carrying within it the story of human error, mechanical malfunction, historical coincidence, and pure luck. Next, 1989 P dime, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint that has captured the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and curious minds around the world because of claims and reports that one extraordinary error specimen has been valued as high as $13 million due to a combination of dramatic minting mistakes, rare die anomalies, transitional errors, and mysterious circumstances that make this tiny 10-cent piece one of the most intriguing and potentially valuable coins of its era. So welcome again to the Numis Hunter, where we explore the rare, the hidden, the unexpected, and the truly unbelievable items that might be sitting unnoticed in your home, your wallet, your coin jar, or your pocket right now, as we uncover how the 1989 P dime, a coin minted by the hundreds of millions, somehow produced a microscopic handful of error pieces so unusual that they become almost mythical, inspiring fierce debates, private sales, and endless speculation among collectors who understand that when it comes to rare error coins, the right combination of mistakes can transform something ordinary into something worth millions. The story begins in the late 1980s at the Philadelphia Mint, a time when coin production was running at full force, with high-speed presses striking tens of thousands of coins per hour, dies wearing quickly under the intense workload, and quality control teams constantly struggling to keep up with massive minting quotas, and whenever speed overtakes precision, the chances of errors slipping into circulation increased dramatically, creating the perfect environment for unusual mistakes to occur. And this is exactly where the origins of the rare 1989 P dime begin, with reports of several dramatic error varieties appearing in small numbers that hinted at serious mechanical problems or unexpected mishaps in the minting process. Among the most intriguing errors associated with the 1989 P dime is the widely discussed double die error, where the details on the obverse, particularly Roosevelt's profile, the word liberty, the phrase "I in God we trust," and even the date appear to have a noticeable doubling effect, almost like a ghostly second image slightly offset from the original design. A striking visual anomaly that is instantly recognizable and highly desirable because double dies are not caused by simple striking issues but by die-making mistakes at the hubbing stage, making them rare, permanent, and collectible. Combined with other errors, a double die can elevate a coin's value exponentially. And in the case of the 1989 P dime, the doubling reported on rare specimens is said to be unusually strong, leading collectors to believe that a flawed die might have been used briefly before being caught and replaced, meaning that only a handful of such dimes could exist. But the story gets even more fascinating when other collectors reported extreme die cracks across the coin's surface, jagged raised lines that cut through Roosevelt's face, neck, or the torch and branches on the reverse, creating dramatic lightning-like marks that formed because the die metal weakened under intense pressure. And when these cracks are large and visually dramatic, they become highly prized by error specialists, especially if the crack creates what is known as a die break, or cud, where a chunk of the die literally falls off, leaving a raised blob-like area on the coin that makes it look malformed in a unique and visually striking way. Coins with large cuds are rare because dies with severe damage are usually removed from production immediately, meaning coins struck during the short period when the damage is forming are few and extremely collectible. Along with die cracks and double dies, the 1989 P dime is rumored to include several astonishing off-center strike errors, where the coin's design is shifted dramatically toward one edge, leaving a crescent of blank metal and giving the coin a bizarre, incomplete appearance. And the more severe the off-center shift, the more valuable the error becomes, especially when the date remains fully visible, allowing certification companies to authenticate the coin's rarity and origin, which is essential for high-value auction sales. But perhaps the most shocking and value-boosting error connected to the legendary 1989 P dime is the possibility of a transitional or wrong planchet strike, where the dime was accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a copper penny planchet or even a nickel planchet, or potentially a leftover experimental alloy blank, all of which would dramatically alter the coin's weight, color, and metallic composition. Such errors are among the rarest in numismatics because planchets are carefully sorted before striking, and when a mismatched planchet finds its way into the press, it usually indicates a very specific and rare type of mechanical or human error, making surviving coins incredibly valuable. For example, a dime struck on a penny planchet would appear copper in color, be slightly larger or smaller depending on the thickness of the blank, and weigh differently than a standard dime, making it instantly recognizable and extremely collectible. If a 1989 P dime exists with this type of error combined with doubling or off-center strikes, its rarity compounds several-fold, pushing its potential value into the multi-million-dollar range. And this is where the legend of the $13 million specimen forms, because collectors have discussed for years the rumored existence of a single 1989 P dime that features a nearly impossible combination of multiple major errors on one coin: a transitional planchet, extreme offsetter strike, strong double die markings, and a dramatic die crack forming a visible cud. A coin exhibiting even two of these errors can command huge premiums, but combining three or four creates a once-in-a-century numismatic masterpiece, a true anomaly so rare that it defies normal minting logic, and coins like this can easily attract private buyers willing to pay astronomical sums for exclusivity, uniqueness, and historical significance. Private sales among high-end collectors, especially those involving rare minting errors, are often not publicly documented for privacy and insurance reasons, which adds to the mystery and allure of such legendary pieces, as rumors circulate of record-breaking purchases that never reach public auction databases, leaving only whispers and speculation in collector communities. Beyond the dramatic errors themselves, another factor contributing to the extraordinary value of the rumored 1989 P dime is the difficulty of survival. Because even if such an error coin were created by accident, it would have had to pass unnoticed through quality control teams, bypass mint workers, remain undetected in bagging and counting machines, be shipped to banks, enter circulation without raising suspicion, be used by the public unaware of its rarity, survive decades of pocket wear, circulation damage, and environmental exposure, and still remain in good enough condition to be recognized and preserved by someone who finally notices its unusual appearance, a survival journey so unlikely that it increases the rarity and value dramatically. Error coins that survive in high grade are extremely prized because most damaged coins lose clarity in their details, making serious errors harder to authenticate or less visually appealing. So collectors place tremendous value on well-preserved examples. This is especially true for coins like the 1989 P dime, where billions of normal coins circulated for decades, making any pristine or near-pristine error specimen almost miraculous. Adding to the mystique is the emotional and psychological excitement for collectors, because rare error coins represent the unexpected, the thrill of discovery, the magic of chance, and the possibility that a life-changing treasure might be hiding in ordinary places. And every time someone checks their spare change or rolls from the bank, they carry the hope of finding one of these legendary rarities. Numismatics thrives on stories of everyday people discovering extraordinary errors, and the legend of the multi-million-dollar 1989 P dime fuels this excitement, inspiring thousands of new collectors and treasure hunters to examine coins more closely. Last, 1974 dime, a coin that some claim could be worth an eye-popping $28 million due to a combination of minting errors, mechanical mistakes, and extremely rare possibilities that make this ordinary 10-cent piece one of the most sought-after treasures for collectors worldwide. And as we begin this journey, I want to welcome every coin enthusiast, treasure hunter, and curious viewer who believes that hidden history can be found in the smallest and most overlooked items. Because the 1974 dime is not just about monetary value. It is about the thrill of discovery, the mystery of minting errors, and the endless possibilities that have fascinated collectors for decades. And to understand why a coin for 1974 could possibly command such an astronomical price, we must first understand the environment at the United States Mint during that period. A time of massive coin production, high-speed presses, and billions of coins being struck to meet circulation demand. And when production is this intense, even the most advanced machinery is susceptible to mistakes, and it is precisely these mistakes that give rise to rare and valuable error coins. And the 1974 dime is a perfect example of how the smallest errors can create the most extraordinary opportunities in collecting. And imagine, first of all, a wrong planchet error, one of the most exciting types of mint mistakes, where a dime is struck on a blank intended for a different coin or metal composition, such as a leftover silver planchet, a penny planchet, or even a foreign or experimental planchet. And when this happens, the coin exhibits unusual weight, color, or metallic properties that immediately make it stand out to collectors. And wrong planchet errors are extremely rare because planchets are carefully sorted and inspected, meaning any surviving examples that escape detection are highly valuable. And now combine that with an off-center strike, one of the most visually dramatic errors in numismatics, where the coin design lands shifted toward one side, leaving a large portion of the planchet blank, and creating a visually striking asymmetry where Roosevelt's profile, the torch, olive branch, and oak leaves are all partially visible, and sometimes even distorted, and off-center strikes become more valuable the more extreme they are, especially when the date remains fully readable, allowing authentication by grading services and collectors alike. And now imagine a multi-strike or double strike error occurring in conjunction with the off-center strike, where the coin moves slightly between strikes, producing overlapping images, doubled letters, distorted numbers, and chaotic layering of design features that make the coin look almost surreal. And multi-strike errors are among the most prized in numismatics because each is entirely unique and visually dramatic, creating one-of-a-kind pieces that collectors dream about. And then there is the possibility of die clash errors, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring ghostly design elements onto the dies and leaving strange impressions on subsequent coins, such as parts of Roosevelt's face appearing on the reverse or torch and branch elements faintly showing on the obverse, creating a mysterious, almost haunting effect that fascinates collectors. And when die clashes occur with other errors like off-center strikes or double strikes, the rarity and potential value multiply exponentially. And consider also die rotation or misalignment, where the upper and lower dies are not properly aligned, producing a rotational mismatch that twists one side relative to the other, adding to the visual chaos and rarity. And rotated dies combined with multi-strike and off-center errors create a coin so unusual that it immediately attracts attention from collectors and grading companies. And now imagine broadstrike errors, where the collar fails to hold the planchet in place, allowing the metal to spread outward during striking, producing a larger, flatter dime with smooth edges instead of the standard reading. And when a broad strike combines with multi-strikes or off-center strikes, the coin appears dramatically warped and visually striking, making it even more desirable. And then there is the die cap error, one of the most fascinating and complex mistakes, where a struck coin sticks to the die and acts as a soft cap, repeatedly imprinting itself onto subsequent planchets and producing distorted, bowl-shaped impressions that can create a one-of-a-kind, almost sculptural effect. And if a 1974 dime were to exhibit a die cap error along with a wrong planchet, double strike, and off-center strike, it would become a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic masterpiece with rarity, uniqueness, and visual appeal all combining to drive its value into the millions. And adding further intrigue is the possibility of a clipped planchet where part of the blank was cut incorrectly, leaving a crescent-shaped or irregular edge. And clipped planchets alone are collectible, but when combined with other dramatic errors, they contribute to a truly extraordinary coin that collectors would fight over in private sales and auctions. And imagine the most extreme scenario: a single 1974 dime combining wrong planchet, extreme off-center strike, double or multiple strikes, die clash, die rotation, broad strike, die cap effects, and clipped planchet, creating a coin so rare, so visually unique, and so mechanically improbable that it would be considered the holy grail of modern dimes. A coin whose existence would be nearly miraculous and whose value could, in theory, reach $28 million depending on collector demand and market speculation. And while no verified sale of a coin at this price has been documented publicly, the legend persists because collectors love imagining the ultimate combination of minting errors, and this keeps the excitement alive, encouraging coin enthusiasts to examine their pocket change, rolls, and old collections for unusual anomalies, hoping against hope that one of these legendary specimens might be hiding in plain sight. And even though ordinary 1974 dimes are common, the few extreme error examples that have been documented show just how powerful mistakes can be when it comes to numismatic value. Because rarity, uniqueness, and visual appeal are key drivers in the collector market, and coins that carry multiple major errors are often subject to private sales at record-breaking prices, sometimes beyond what the public can verify, adding to the allure and mystery of such pieces. And the survival factor also plays a huge role in value, because even if a perfect error coin was created, it would need to escape detection, pass through bank shipments, survive decades of circulation without significant wear or damage, and eventually be discovered and preserved, making surviving examples exceedingly rare and increasing their potential value exponentially. And that is why the story of the 1974 dime is so captivating, because it combines mechanical mistakes, historical coincidence, rarity, and human fascination into one incredible legend, inspiring collectors to examine every coin carefully for off-center strikes, double dies, die clashes, broad strikes, die caps, clipped planchets, or any unusual features that might hint at hidden treasure And beyond the technical errors, there is the thrill of imagining the life-changing potential of a single discovery, the excitement of holding a coin that might be worth millions, and the adrenaline rush of knowing that something so small could transform a collection or a life overnight. And all these factors, rarity, extreme error possibilities, survival, collector demand, and imagination, come together to fuel the legend of the $28 million 1974 dime, making it one of the most talked about and highly speculated coins. In the history of American numismatics, a coin that represents not just monetary value, but the thrill of discovery, the beauty of human and mechanical imperfection, and the endless fascination of searching for hidden treasures in ordinary places. And so, as we continue to explore the world of rare coins, keep your eyes open, keep your curiosity alive,